Serving it up to you live on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. I'm Bruce Nolan. That's Nate Geary. And this is Food for Thought, a show combining two of your three favorite F words. That's right, food and football. The third one's farting because we're juvenile.
Yes.
Whoopee cushions, fart noises made. Just intrinsically laughing through your nose, snort laughing. That's clearly the third F. Get your mind out of the gutter. Mr. Geary, how you doing this evening, man?
I am fantastic, Bruce. It is a beautiful day in Western New York, and by day, clearly it is night, and clearly it is cold. There is some serious snow in the forecast for Sunday, of course, and I will be attending, Bruce, my very first live Buffalo Bills game in the stands since 2017 against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. So this will be a bit of a homecoming. I have been, Bruce, it will be now the last 4 Carolina Panthers games. I think I have been to every single matchup against the Carolina Panthers probably ever. I want to say ever. Like I was there at the EJ Manuel game. I was there in the Zay Jones game. And hopefully there will be a blank game this Sunday. And hopefully it's like the Isaiah McKenzie game or the Dane Jackson game where it's like 3 interceptions, which probably isn't that far off because the quarterback play up there in Carolina is, or I should say down there in Carolina is quite poor. But I'm excited. So if you are listening and you're a regular at the Bills games, the Bills tailgates, I will be, my buddy Joe Marino will be joining me as well. He'll be meeting me out there at some point for a deliciously cold beverage. But if you're hanging out, if you're around the Abbott in Southwestern intersection, I will be tailgating behind the KK Food Mart, serving up some bourbon-style pulled pork that I'm very excited about. And on that pulled pork, the vessel in which that pulled pork will be sitting on, Bruce, are some soft pretzel King's Hawaiian rolls. That's right. Soft pretzel King's Hawaiian rolls. So I'm pretty excited about what's on deck on the menu for the game. And frankly, for being at a game, it's been a while since I've been able to kind of sit and enjoy and not have to worry about writing something, taking notes, being completely sober. So I'll be excited for a couple of beers, some delicious food, and freezing my arse off.
I am not jealous of your freezing your arse off. I am not jealous of the stadium experience. I am jealous of the food. Because let's be honest, that's really what we do here. And so for Timothy, who is on Facebook and is first time live listening to the show. Hello, Timothy.
Tim, welcome
to Food for Thought. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you have a good time. Zach is chiming in. King's Hawaiian sliders are elite. You're absolutely right. If you follow me on Instagram at Bruce Exclusive, you will know that Mrs. Nolan is a big slider aficionado. We will take the King's Hawaiian. We will do buffalo chicken slider. We will do Philly cheesesteak slider. We will do pulled pork slider. It is a thing. Timothy says he's been listening to some Bruce and Nick Bat.
Bringing it back.
Old school.
Nick Bat. A day oneer.
If I was Obi-Wan, I'd be saying, no, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Of course I know Bruce. He's me. Okay, so before we get started, remember, like, subscribe, rate, review, hit all the engagement buttons for me. Also, while I'm here, if you could do me a favor and go to your podcasting app and give us a review.
Please.
Say something about Food for Thought. Say something about the Bruce Exclusive. Say something about Nate. Say something about me. Do the stuff. Because I feel like it's been a little bit since I got a review, and I kind of need. My ego is really fragile. I'm just kidding. I'm making this all up. I don't. My ego's not fragile at all. But listen, any excuse to get people to give a review, I guess I'll do.
Like a good restaurant, everyone likes to know how they can serve their customers better. And here at Food for Thought, we want to know how we can make your meal on a Friday night. You could be anywhere in the world, Bruce, and you decide to have a seat here at the Food for Thought table, and we want to make sure that A, you are satisfied, but B, you never leave hungry.
Yeah, you know what? The fact that you were able to finish the tagline there, I think is really good. And you know what? That makes me happy. You know what else makes me happy, Nate? Food.
Food.
Food makes me happy. And so we're going to talk about foods that cheer you up tonight. And we're going to talk about foods that cheer you up tonight. And it's a little different than comfort food per se, but it's more comfort needed food. And that's different. When you need comfort, you find these foods. What are the foods? What are the go-to consumption items that will cheer you up? Nate, you had a bad day. The Bills have lost 2 in a row, both in kind of heartbreaking fashion.
That's right.
Bills Mafia set itself on fire. And now,
luckily, not literally.
Yes,
luckily, not literally.
Not literally, yes. We got to pull ourselves out of the slump. We got to go for Old Faithful. We got to go. There is no room for error here, Nate. We absolutely need to have the food that will cheer you up. Where are you going, Nate?
So listen, I want to start by acknowledging Andy's contribution here for those that will be listening. Sugary cereal is what Andy Anderson said is his go-to, feel better food, his good feels food, right? And I will say that a good Captain Crunch, or one of my favorites, and we've already talked about this, is Grape Nuts. But that is more of an everyday, everyman cereal. That cereal I am not eating necessarily, although I enjoy it. I am eating it because of the fuel that it provides me for the rest of my day. So that is not in the same vein of like a Marshmallowy or a Cocoa Pebbles that I would just want to go down on. And by the way, I have one thing I'd like to say about cereal eaters is I have a cereal eater at my full-time job. He's an employee of mine. And he, every Wednesday, when we have our team meeting together, Bruce, he gets this bowl that's about, I don't know, about that tall, almost like a mixing bowl. And
I like where
he
this is
fills
going.
about half the bag of cereal and about half of the quarter gallon of milk. It is absurd. He finishes he'll eat like a bite, wait 15, 20, 30 minute, another bite. All of a sudden, an hour later, he's still spooning this crap in his mouth. It's soggy. The milk is warm. Those are the sorts of people you look out for in life. The people that eat cereal over an extended period of time. I need to get my cereal. That's the great thing about Grape Nuts, Bruce.
Absolutely.
They tend to stay
They hold
crispy.
up.
They hold up. They hold up in the milk for quite some time. You don't have to be in a hurry. But man, there is something wrong with you if you're the guy that's letting the cereal get soggy and you're sort of eating it in its congealed form. That's wrong. And I just wanted to go out. I wanted to make sure people knew that's not acceptable and not something that we acknowledge here on Food for Thought. But
I think it's a great take.
I will start and tell you, and JR, Lucky Charms. That's correct. So I want to go and tell you something that I believe belongs in a similar sized bowl. That mixing bowl. 2 warmish, give it about 10 minutes after you pull it out of the oven, brownies. And this is very important, Bruce. They need to be middle brownie pieces for this particular dish. If I'm going to feel better, needs to be the middle brownie. I do not eat the edges of the brownie, but for this particular dish, it is incredibly important that they remain the 2 middle pieces of the brownie. So 2 brownie pieces. Again, I'm going to be very careful with how I tell you. It is exactly 4 full scoops of vanilla bean ice cream. Plop, 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 plop. And here's the kicker. Warm hot fudge just drizzled over the top. And when that starts to break down and the hot fudge starts to sort of melt that delicious, it's got to be vanilla bean. Get out of here with that French vanilla bull crap, your traditional vanilla. I need the vanilla bean. That's the elite of the elite vanilla ice creams. That is my feel-good food. That is bringing me out of just about any funk that I can imagine. Pretty much, I mean, you name it, that's sort of my go-to. That's getting me out of whatever I need to get out of.
We've got some good things in the comments. JR liked pizza so much, he put it 3 times. Pizza, pizza, wings, pizza. Richard Rush says soft serve. Always cheers him up. Timothy says cinnamon toast crunch. Richard Rush chimes in again with surf and turf.
Ooh.
Is good for the soul.
So listen, Bruce, we're going to have a show sometime in the not so distant future where we will have a full-on discussion on our preferences of soft serve versus hard ice cream versus custard, because I think custard often gets lumped in with soft serve, and I sir, they just could not be remotely the same. So that's for another time, but I did want to just lay that out there.
I think it's a good discussion to have. I think it's very important that we draw lines of delineation.
That's
and
right.
I think it's very important that we define everything as it should be defined, because I think too often in the culinary conversation, we lump everything together. Everything is everything else, which is everything else, which is everything else. And you know what? Organization exists for a reason. We don't live like savages here at Food for Thought. So for me, the feel-good food is fairly variable, but I will tell you this. I have very, very, very rarely had a bad steak that I have made by myself at home with my wife making some sort of potato side dish. Real quick about Mrs. Nolan. While we're on the topic of your brownie sundae, Mrs. Nolan was all the way with you until you said hot fudge. I would like to share with you potentially the worst food take that Mrs. Nolan has ever had.
Okay.
She does not like hot fudge.
Is there a reason? Is it because she prefers like the traditional, just like chocolate syrup? Or
I think she likes the traditional chocolate syrup, but quite frankly, I've been telling her she needs to make a YouTube account and chime in the comments so she can defend herself in the event this ever happens. And she might be listening right now and texting me angrily in a few seconds. I'm not sure.
So,
but
is it a texture thing? Because I can get that when the hot fudge sort of meets the ice cream, it starts to. Is gel the right word?
Yeah, gel's the right word.
Yeah, it gels in. But so I'll say this: although that is my comfort, feel good meal, the chocolate hard shell that comes out as the chocolate syrup, but then hardens around the ice cream. Magic shell. I think that's
yes, magic
called.
shell. So we have to chime in.
I'm not mad at Mrs. Nolan, but I am slightly disappointed.
We have a chime in from Mrs. Nolan. She says, "No, I just don't like chocolate on my ice cream. It's goopy and gross. I want vanilla." Okay. Those are the things. So I think potentially the worst food take maybe of all time when it comes to Mrs. Nolan. And Andy in the comment section is right. Well, Bruce, no one is perfect. This at least proves she's a real human being. It's true. I think I would have to show you some sort of flaw of Mrs. Nolan, lest you forget that she is an actual human and not actually a literal goddess that is said. She's a figurative goddess. There's no question. Sure. But everyone has flaws. So my steak that I make at home, right? You'll get a filet typically, and I will sous vide the filet. Ooh, yes. And I will sear the filet in avocado oil, and I will butter.
Higher flash point.
So what means you can get hotter, faster, and you can sear it really well. You get one wonderful color. You know, the Maillard reaction is fantastic. You spoon some of that butter over there, salt, pepper, brilliant, right? Other people's steaks are kind of hit and miss for me. When I go to a restaurant, it's usually fine. But like a steak that your buddy will prepare on the grill, it could be okay. It could be fine. It could be amazing. But when I want to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am going to eat something that is good enough to make me slow my chew, that is my definition of feel-good food. It is something where you start your first chew, and after the first couple bites, you actually slow your chew down. because you realize that what you are experiencing is bliss and you don't want it to stop. You don't want to get to that spot where you're coming down the home stretch. You're looking at the bottom of the pudding and going, there's no pudding. You don't want to be at that spot.
Right.
So for me, a really good steak. My wife makes an unbelievable loaded potato casserole alongside it, but we could do anything alongside it and it would be amazing. So for me, the feel good food is a steak that I make myself at home.
Okay.
So we needed
the process, by the way. The process, by the way, of making a steak is very, especially when you get it right. You get the right core temperature. You don't have to put a thermometer inside. You break into it after letting it rest for 7 to 8 minutes. That first slice goes right down to the cutting board, and boom, you have a perfect medium rare on the inside. There is nothing quite like that.
One thing before we move on, Kevin says, I agree with Mrs. Nolan. Hot fudge texture is not an enjoyable experience. The hot brownie melting the ice cream adds the best experience. And Mrs. Nolan, by the way, just so you know, Kevin, she just texted me and said, Kevin knows what's up. So
okay, well,
Mrs. Nolan, you need to just get a YouTube so you can be in the comment section and you don't have to text
so you don't have to text you. Right.
Yeah. And I have to speak for her at that point. Okay. If Bills Tampa Bay was a food, what kind of food? Now I will level with you, Nate. We do a lot of great segments on Food for Thought that I really enjoy.
This is one of my favorites.
This is my favorite one.
Yeah.
Because every single week we're trying to one up the creativity of each other when it comes to comparing a game to a food. You'll notice I changed it from meal to food so I could get away with using a tall glass of water again if I ever want to.
Damn straight. Damn straight.
So,
are you ready or do you want me to go?
You go ahead and go first because I know you've been working on it.
Yeah.
I want to cede the floor to you.
If Bills Bucks was a meal, it would be caviar. And the reason being is I have never myself tried caviar. I'm not sure, Bruce, that I've ever actually seen it in person. But what I can tell you is that, like that Bills game, had you told me that the Bills would find themselves down in that football game early and often, but found their way back in the second half, flipped the script, found their way back, much like caviar, had somebody offered me caviar at a fine dining situation, first of all, I would feel obligated to try it, even though I'm not sure I'm going to enjoy it. I don't know, Bruce, what even the flavor profile of caviar is. But what I know,
it's salty. It's really salty.
Well, I was quite salty after that Bills game. But what I'll say, Bruce, is like caviar, that high level, that experience, the I don't know what the things that go with caviar, which is high class, fine dining, right? Tom Brady, fine dining. Tom Brady, best of the best, right? If you would have told me, I would have taken it, that the Bills would have found a way to get that thing to overtime and have a chance to win. Fortunately, they go 3 and out. And you have to know, Bruce, that if you go 3 and out in that first drive, you give the ball to Tom Brady in overtime, it's over. So I think for me, I kind of go back to the caviar thing because I don't know it. I don't know what it tastes like, but I would try it and I would take it if given the setting, just like I would take the Bills, kind of coming back in that football game and making it a game and at least entertaining, because there was a point in that first half where, Bruce, I was a little worried about what the conversation on this show was going to be like, but I think really the conversation nationally, I think the Bills earned a little bit of respect for the way that they played that second half. And it wasn't a win. They did lose to Brady and Belichick in back-to-back weeks. But here we are. We're back in another Food for Thought. And I don't know how you'll top it, but I have the feeling you've been working on something here, Bruce, that you will top my caviar take.
If Bills Tampa Bay was a food, it was a fast food combo meal, and specifically a Wendy's fast food combo meal. And I will tell you why. Wendy's has the worst fries of potentially any fast food restaurant. But you know they're going to be bad, so what do? You eat them first. You eat the fries before the sandwich that came along with the meal. So you're getting through the first half of the meal. And you're just going through the motions. You're not enjoying it. You showed up. You did what you were supposed to do. You're eating the things you say you're supposed to eat, but you're not having fun.
No.
You're not loving it. By the time you're halfway through the meal, you're like, what did I do here? Was this a mistake? But the second half is always better than the first, because then you get to eat your jalapeno popper chicken sandwich. You get to have your Baconator. You get to have the Asiago Ranch Chicken Club.
Wow.
You get to have whatever it was that initially caught your eye anyway, after you powered through the half of the meal that you weren't ever going to enjoy anyway. The second half was better. And the second half was better of a Wendy's combo meal, just like the second half was better in Bills Bucks. So for me, if I have to say that Bills Bucks is a meal, it's a Wendy's combo meal. For those of us in the comments section, all right, come on, guys. Who had the better metaphor? Nate said Bills Bucks was caviar. I said Bills Bucks was a Wendy's combo meal. We want some chime in from the comments section. Who had the better metaphor? And while we are getting that, we are going to bring on our guest for the evening. He's going to chime in to let me know who had the better metaphor. Mr. John Ramsey from Yards Per Pass. Mr. John Ramsey, how you doing, dude?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
It's a party all the time. Disco balls, dancers,
right.
The whole thing. It's just a party. I literally can't handle it. If I was doing better, they would lock me away and think I was crazy.
I do, by the way. I do think he's crazy, so it's not.
That's pretty fair. I accept that. Okay, so John, you were with us. You heard Nate saying that Bills Bucks was caviar, and you heard me saying that Bills Bucks was a Wendy's combo meal. Who are you going with, man? You got to pick a side right off the bat.
I mean, this is pretty rough beginning to come.
It's nuanced, is what it is, John.
Pod, yeah.
The hard-hitting questions is what you get here at Food for Thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the combo meal, just because, caviar. I've had it. It's like it doesn't suck at first and then it's good. It's like it's good all the way through.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I've never had it.
It is what it is. But I think if you like it, you like the whole thing, or if you don't like it, you don't like the whole thing. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so that's why I got to go with the mystery man over here on the
mystery man. That's right.
The Wendy's.
Well, thanks so much for being here, dude. I really appreciate it, John.
Yes.
And when Nate told me that you were going to be on, I was like, yes, okay, let's do this. Let's go. And I am going to start off with a run game question that I want to talk to you about.
Easy. Softball.
Because softball. When the team that you follow is struggling with a run game and they have different ways schematically to be able to recover, I feel a lot of times there's two strains of thought when it comes to getting advantages in the run game, knowing that you may not have the personnel, because halfway through the year, there's probably not going to be a drastic personnel change that is going to suddenly make your running game better. And one of the lines of thinking is that through the use of RPOs, you can make sure that you're always running into good looks. You're always running into good looks and you're not catching yourself in bad situations. You're running into ideal boxes. You're holding backside defenders. You're doing the things that need to be done in order to get good looks in the run game. The other line of thinking is that RPOs do not allow your offensive line to commit fully to the run, because obviously can't be downfield, and that designed runs from under center are going to be able to have your offensive line behave more aggressively and be able to really commit to a running play and get success that way. But those ideas are conflictual. The RPO idea, the idea that, okay, we're going to make sure we're running into good looks, versus the designed run under center stuff, which says, you know what, we need to fully commit to this run play. We need to make sure everybody's fully committed. It's a Ron Swanson thing. Never half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. That's the Ron Swanson theory, right? And there are two lines of thinking when it comes to that. And I feel like with the amount of RPOs that the Buffalo Bills ran, specifically in the first half last week, they may be of the first opinion, and other people may be of the second opinion. And I kind of want your thoughts on it, because we know that there's, Adrian Peterson prime version is not walking through that door. That's not happening. So with the idea that you're not going to get personnel upgrades at this point, John Feliciano coming back will help in the run game, I'm sure, because he's, nothing if not a reasonable run blocker who brings aggression and physicality to the line. Where do you fall on this?
So I'm strictly a guy that thinks the run game is numbers. You look at the box. If you got 5 blockers and you got 5 guys in the box, you run it. If you've got 6, you throw it. Using your RPOs, zone read type thing. You can account for an extra guy, but they're not built to run. This is just not a running team. Why keep smashing your head into the wall trying to run it? Now, is the play action better from under center? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think their shotgun play action game is very good, but you throw the ball, you throw to win, you run the clock out. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. You score points and then run later when you need to take 6 minutes on the drive. But so I guess you could put me in the RPO throwing camp, and I guess you both are in the same as well.
I would consider myself in that camp, John. But I guess a part of the follow-up question to this RPO question, I think, starts from this is a broader, more philosophical question and a stance. Have RPOs, particularly in the Bills sense, and maybe just in the Bills vein, has it ruined their ability to run the ball in a more traditional sense? Meaning, has this RPO game, the way that they run it, has it sort of had an effect on everything else they do? Because I look at the Miami Dolphins, and it's a crutch, because that's really all Tua can do. And this offense is more than RPO. The problem is, John, is they've struggled so much to run the ball traditionally or conventionally that RPOs have really allowed them to remain at least borderline effective, but it's really pushed them away from any conventional success running the football. And I guess the follow-up is, does it matter? Like, does any team, does the winning formula include running it in the quote conventional sense?
I mean, I think that, I don't mean to go to the whole physicality argument, but you played, there is something about imposing your will on another team. Now, I think you can do that out of the shotgun. I think you can beat the crap out of people, running RPOs, but for some reason this team struggles to do that. And so I think, doing it traditionally, if they could, I think they would, but I just think that they know that they're not good at it. So they're just being smart, like not throwing the ball, not running it against Tampa. Tremendous run defense. They suck at running. Why run it in the first half? They had the RPOs, but you guys watch it. Josh, he keeps everything. He
almost to a fault, John. Almost to a fault.
I agree. I think just because he knows, he's not stupid. He's like, shit, I can hand it off, or I can try to hit hit the curl outside for 10 yards. And I think he'd rather take his chances on hitting the
and read options the same, John. And listen, I want to maybe recognize that Josh is probably self-aware. I think he recognizes, much like I do, much like a lot of people do, if you had the choice to have the ball in the hands of Josh Allen or Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, I want the ball in the hands of the quarterback. And I know you hear guys like Bruce Arians after that game say, well, maybe I don't, put the ball in the hands of my quarterback as much as the Bills did in that game. But when you are in the position the Bills are right now, which is still really searching for their identity, I think they found it in the second half, John. What were some of the things going back and watching that game in the second half that they were able to do with Devin Singletary in particular that had that success breaking off those runs. I mean, 5 for 59 or something, like 6 for 59 in the second half. And I don't want to say that the run game was a catalyst, but it's hard to ignore, or hard not to ignore, the fact that the offense was playing a lot like the team we recognized from 2020 and maybe from earlier parts of this season, when that running game really brought the safeties up. It really forced them to reconsider blitzing because the run game was beating them behind it.
Yeah, so I actually think the big runs they hit were they got them in some blitzes. They caught them. I mean, it wasn't like, they were rushing 4 and they just blocked it up real nice. They caught them in a couple overload blitzes. I think the big one to Singletary, David was coming off the corner and it worked. I mean, and Singletary cut it right up inside. It was just like a great play call for the blitz that they caught him in, and that's what they did. I think the Breida's run, I think they caught him in a blitz. Even Allen's that big, I think that touchdown they caught him in something. So it's not like they are, blowing people off the ball and imposing their will. It's almost a changeup. This is the pass game is the fastball, and this is the show me curve, just to make sure that you're not sitting on the fastball. I do want to say though, one thing that I haven't seen, and I know I was going back reviewing everything for this, they had an option play they had an option play with Singletary and McKenzie set up, but Josh kept it, and I just wonder if we'll see it again. It's like Josh had the option to hand it to Singletary, and McKenzie was going to be the pitch man, but Josh kept it. So I just, they had a couple tricks in there for him, but they, Josh kept him. But I can't really blame the quarterback. He was fantastic. So
yeah, throw the ball or run the triple option. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Why not? Let's just go full Navy. Everyone wants to go full Navy, and I want to talk a little bit about Devin Singletary because something popped up in my consciousness recently in regards to Devin Singletary. And that was that Pro Football Focus did a study on runs that were perfectly blocked up versus runs that had at least one block that failed pretty early on in the run. And they were sorting the yards per carry of each of the running backs in the NFL on blocked plays that did not go perfectly, right? Plays that had a breakdown of some sort. Look who showed up in the top 10 of that list. But Devin Singletary, here's the exhaustive list of the top 10. Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, James Robinson, Cordero Patterson, Chase Edmonds, Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, Devin Singletary, Dearness Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott. 8th in the NFL in yards per carry on runs that were not perfectly blocked up. First off, does this surprise you when you see this? Devin Singletary's name amongst this top 10 list. And number 2, are we at a spot now where maybe it swung too far away from Singletary with all the Zach Moss RB1 hype? And then we had the Breida thing come in. And here Singletary's just, chugging along, being a perfectly reasonable running back. Has it gotten to the point now where he's almost underrated? Or is this not surprising to you at all, and this is exactly what you thought he was going to be?
Singletary is really weird. He's because he's not athletic.
Yeah.
He tests poorly, but he's really, I can say the F word on this, right? That's no problem.
Hey.
All right.
This is late night. This is late night Friday podcasting.
Okay.
Go crazy, John.
He's really fucking quick. Like so he will make guys just look stupid. But if you're running like a normal outside zone play, it just feels like he's just slow to get there. It's real. Like if you had him in when he tries to tackle a guy in a telephone booth, you don't want to tackle Devin Singletary. He'll make you miss. But if it's like a foot race, he just doesn't look athletic. But then he'll break off like a 30-yard run, and you'll wonder where it came from. So he's very. I don't think he's that great of a pass blocker. I know some people like him in the pass game. I don't really like him in the pass game. I think that's why Moss plays more, because I think he's the best pass blocker. Breida had a terrible block, against the Bucs. But Breida just looks so much faster.
So much faster.
And so I Singletary, like you said, Bruce, with the advanced stuff, I've seen some of the advanced stuff that really likes Singletary. But he always runs into light boxes. I think he's one of the highest in the league running into light boxes. So you got less guys to make miss. But I mean, should he be punished for being successful at that? I don't know. But it sounds such like a cop out, but it's an eye thing. Like I just don't. He's fine. It's the best way I can describe him. He's fine. I don't know what else to say. It's a terrible answer, but I think. What do you guys think?
That's sort of meh, right? Like just like the run game in general, he leads it. He's the least sexy. He provides probably the least NFL out of the box skill set. When you look at Moss, he's got NFL traits. He's got that physicality. He can get downhill. I think he's actually quite a good, to your point, pass blocker. I also think he's decent in the pass game. He can make a couple of he's got good hands. But there is a disconnection. It has not hit Zach Moss yet. And with Matt Breida, he's got a fatal flaw. He can't hang on to the ball. And when you can't trust a guy at a position that it seems like you're looking for one guy to give a reason to trust, Breida makes it really difficult. And obviously, to your point, John, he missed that block. And I mean, he barely played again after that. But I think with this running game, you start to see what happened in the second half. Emmanuel Sanders goes out of that game, John. And I want to know what your overall thoughts here of Gabriel Davis are, because I think for me, I still sit in this world that ideally, if in a perfect world, Gabriel Davis is probably in the position that he has been all season. But I think I'd like a more youthful, maybe more athletic at this point in his career than Emmanuel Sanders. I think Sanders started out of the gates hot this year, but he started to look his age. And it's you could tell, John, that it's slowed down a little bit for him. But the one area that I've always liked the idea of Sanders in this offense, John, is against zone, because I think he is a really nuanced player. I think he understands where the soft parts of the zone are, where to settle and where not to. And I think that's why it appeared that he and Josh were on the same page early, even though there hadn't been that amount or volume of reps. I think it really was simply Sanders' experience and Allen not quite playing yet at this point of his career with a player who understands where to sit down, and that communication, that unspoken communication on the field was sort of hitting right off the bat, because Sanders knew where to go and he knew where to be. He knew where to settle down. And now that this offense has struggled over an extended period, and we see Gabriel Davis back in the lineup in a big way and had a big impact on that game, where do you stand right now with Gabriel Davis's role in the offense? Is this a thing? Are you expecting now that with the extended opportunity to see more playing time, more snaps, that this is his moment to maybe take that wide receiver 2 job and run with it for the rest of the year, even when Emmanuel Sanders is healthy and back in the lineup?
So I think it's Mike Lombardi, the ex-Pats guy who wrote the good book. He says, I'm pretty sure it's him, says you want a wide receiver core like a basketball team. You don't want 5 of the same guys. You need different guys with different strengths. They can do different things. Davis is the only real receiver that can block on this team. The other 3 don't. I'm talking Beasley, Sanders, and Diggs. They don't block real well. I mean, you've seen some of these screens that they've tried to run out there. They just get blown. I mean, they just get blown up because they tried throwing those little quick ones to Beasley a few weeks ago, and they don't block for anyone. So that's why you see Kumaro in. That's why you see Davis in on a lot of these run plays. You could tell the run package that's coming. They shuffle the wide receivers in, depending on what they want to do. Look at where they went to Davis the past 2 weeks in the red zone. He's bigger. He's more physical. They hit him on the play to the Patriots for a touchdown. They hit him again on basically the same thing. Against Tampa, it was against all-out blitz. They hit him on the little skinny post. I don't know if he's super athletic or not, but he's definitely adds something different, and it sure seems like Josh trusts him, which I think can never be undervalued. You just go look at Aaron Rodgers, GM Aaron Rodgers getting a couple of his boys back. because he trusts them. And, I got, a couple friends played football with all my life. You just, when you vibe with a guy, where you just trust him, where he's going to be. And it's stupid, but it matters. I mean, it really does. Trusting your receivers, because if you just won't throw to them, and it kind of eliminates, a progression on the play if you really don't want to throw to a guy. So yes,
one last question before we get you out of here. So Autumn in the comment section says, do you think he would benefit with more snaps to get in the room? Talking about Devin Singletary. I want to ask you a little bit about this. I want to ask you specifically about the running back rotation and the defensive line rotation. From a philosophical standpoint, one of the things that's come up a lot this year is that idea of getting into the groove. This idea that fewer people getting more snaps will lend itself toward rhythm, whether that's pass rushing or running the ball. Are you someone who ascribes to that concept on the defensive line and in the running back room? Do you think that having fewer people getting more snaps will lead to a net positive? Or are you a big fan of let's keep them fresh, let's rotate them, let's specialize them? Where do you fall on this?
So good question. Seth Walder, I think ESPN's main analytics guy, I actually shot him a note about this, asking if he had any data, if anyone has done any research on the defensive line thing. Like, do they notice if guys are more productive, with, more rest, so to speak? Because, obviously the Bills are very much into, rotating guys through. I think they overdo it a little bit. I mean, I want my best guys out there a little bit more than they do, but I don't think they have anyone either that is of the caliber of either the two defensive ends they're going to face on Sunday. Carolina, Burns, and I think Reddick. It's Reddick, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, Hassan Reddick
and
Brian Burns.
Yeah.
I mean, they are fast. They fly off there, and I don't. The Bills have Jerry Hughes, who's doing well for an older defensive end, but I don't think that taking him off the field and putting a fresh guy in is killing them. Is the run game? The run game, I think, is more important for the line. If the hole's there, the hole's there. Run and make your play. I don't really subscribe to the groove thing when you don't have a guy that is head and shoulders up above the others. I'd be pissed off if it was Thurman Thomas and Kenny Davis. We all loved Ken Davis, but Thurman's a Hall of Famer. I'm not taking Thurman off the field. I don't think there's a big enough difference between any of the guys in the line or in the running backfield where they should really, change their philosophy on it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here, John.
Yeah, brother.
Before you get out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, what you're up to, pitch.
He's not golfing, unfortunately.
No,
he's not golfing.
It's a shame. It was 60 degrees. I got a little tear in the MCL. I was playing my ball hockey league, tore it, so I couldn't even go out anyways. No one gives a shit about that. But I'm just on Twitter now, at yards per pass. 3 kids have taken a lot out of the real football work I can do. But feel free to follow me. I try and tweet out the GIFs as much as I can. I know some people have gotten shut down on it. I'm still legal apparently, so I try and put them out as much as I can. Do some memes, troll some opposing teams fans. Try and do that.
Tale as old as time, my friend.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. But yeah, it's a good. I'm always on Twitter. Shoot me a message if you got a question or anything. Follow you guys. You guys do great work. I don't have the mustache Nate does, but
few do.
Beggars. I'm 41 now. I'm old. I can't pull it off anymore.
John, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Appreciate you
later.
Hey, Merry Christmas too.
Yes.
Happy holiday. Whatever you celebrate. I hope it's a good one.
Merry Christmas to you too, man. Talk to you soon.
Late.
All right, we did it. We did the yards per pass thing. I kind of feel like we should have opened with yards per pass statistics just to like set the table
just to really set the
for
stage.
that conversation. You know what I mean? I feel like we definitely should have done that. But okay,
though,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Bruce, we kind of broached on it, and listen, offense is the sexy thing to talk about. We do a lot of it on this show. We talk about offense, and that's fair. That's what people want to talk about. I think the defensive line is a topic we should probably at least broach and talk about here for a few moments before we sort of get into our winners and losers of the week and get into some questions in our chat box. And scheme, obviously, which is an important one, Bruce. But I've sort of been outspoken over the last couple of days of being kind of disappointed in this Bills defensive line, and I have been, and I think it's okay to be disappointed. I think we continue to use pressures as a statistic that I think show efficiency, that shows the ability to get to the quarterback. Because as we know, I do believe that true sacks are a quarterback stat. And I think the Bills over the last couple of weeks have played quarterbacks that do a great job of getting rid of the ball very quickly. And you played a Mac Jones and a Patriots team a couple weeks ago that threw the ball 3 times. So not a lot of opportunities for sacks, but this defensive line to me, Bruce, and John made a great point about the freshness and rotating people in and out, because we know that this Bills defensive line, this coaching staff, they really like to bring in and out those defensive linemen and keep them fresh. But I'm having trouble finding one guy that I can say in a pinch, and a 3rd and 5, in a 3rd and 7, a pin your ears back, speed rush, bull rush, whatever. I just don't have a go-to guy at the edge or in the interior to get after the passer. And I think it's the one thing this defense knew they needed to get better at, and they didn't. I mean, they didn't. I want to say, I'll give them benefit of the doubt and say this, Bruce, that they are probably at par with what they were last year. Maybe a quarter step back, but they are certainly not better. And they certainly spent the resources to get better.
And that's really one of the reasons why I asked John about this, because I had a feeling what the answer was going to be. And the answer was going to be exactly what I thought it was going to be, which is, well, sure, when you have an impact guy, then you shouldn't rotate as much. And the natural counter to that is you spent enough capital to have an impact guy. You didn't spend 2 seconds, and a first to get in the last couple of years, plus Addison, plus a top 10 pick in Ed Oliver. You didn't spend these things to get a defensive line that needs to rotate so heavily because they don't have an impact defender. Now, the sum is still reasonable. We would agree it's reasonable. But the assets that you spent don't validate reasonable. So no one's saying that no one should be saying that the Bills defensive line is bad or the Bills pass rush is bad, because you don't know what bad pass rush is.
Correct.
If you think it's bad. But I'll tell you that it's disappointing relative to the investment.
Yeah.
Which is a completely
ROI.
different discussion.
ROI.
Yeah, ROI. Agreed. Return on investment. If you had invested a couple fourths and you received this would be crazy positive.
You're
ROI.
saying, correct. You are saying, hey, we're getting contributions, we're getting pressures. This isn't the worst thing in the world, considering the amount of value we have placed into the position and have spent on the position. The problem is a 1st and 2nd round pick. I would like to go through the league, Bruce, and I would like to know, and we can do this exercise. Maybe we could do it later on, maybe next week when we record. But if you go through that 2nd round, how many guys are sitting as much as Boogie Basham is? I don't know, and I would love to know. Brandon Beane sitting in his office at home, watching film, thinking to himself, I would love to know what his true thoughts are about the Boogie Basham pick, because it's been an utter disappointment.
Well, if you'd like to, we can do that, because I have it pulled up in front of me. So we can pull this up and just really, obviously we're not going to pull up the snap counts for everybody, but we have a good idea of these people and how they're playing. So while we do that, we do not have an email. So please, if you are in the comments section, if you have a question or a take or something, now is the time. Go ahead and put it in while Nate and I look at the 2nd round of the 2021 draft and see who's sitting and who's starting and who's making a significant impact. So let's start at the top. Tyson Campbell, Jaguars, playing. Elijah Moore, Jets, impact, and now hurt.
Impact.
Javonte Williams, Broncos, impact. Javon Holland, Dolphins, impact. Landon Dickerson, Eagles,
That's
playing.
a deep offensive line. He's a rotational player, but playing. Not
Christian Barmore
in street clothes. Oh,
coming on.
Impact.
Tevin Jenkins had the back surgery, right? Was out, phasing his way in. Richie Grant, Atlanta, playing. Levi Awutsariki from Washington was Detroit, playing. Liam Eichenberg, the Dolphins,
starting.
Trevin Merrick, Raiders, playing. Kelvin Joseph, Cowboys. Is Kelvin
not playing?
Not playing.
But he's dressing.
Okay. Walker Little, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Couldn't tell you.
Me neither.
We could just skip all the Jaguars picks if you want.
Jackson Carman, Bengals, playing. Asante Samuel, hurt, but very good.
But playing.
Aaron Banks, 49ers.
Playing.
Rondale Moore, playing. Azeez Ojulari, playing. Sam Cosmi, not playing well.
But playing.
Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, playing.
Starting, playing.
Right. Dylan Raditz, not really.
Not much.
Yeah. Dayu Odebegabo, Indianapolis Colts.
Yes.
Yes,
he's rotational.
Just came on recently, right?
Yep.
Pratt Freiermuth playing and killing it.
Yep.
Dwayne Eskridge starting to see some playing time in Seattle.
Yep. Tutu Atwell returning kicks and is doing kind of what everyone thought he was going to do in the NFL.
Bolton playing.
Terrace
Marshall not playing a lot, but to be fair, it was always going to be DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson there. It was always going to be there. The disappointment for me is that Terrace Marshall isn't really grabbing a hold of the third wide receiver job.
Which they are just begging for someone to do. Yeah.
Pete Werner, Saints.
Playing.
Carlos Basham, Bills, not playing. Josh Myers, Packers, playing. Right?
Yeah, I'm going to close my ears for this next one.
Creed Humphrey, Kansas City Chiefs, dominating. Okay, we found one. Kyle Trask, not playing behind Tom Brady.
No.
There we go.
Yeah. So I think what that little exercise did is I want to say that barring injury, that Boogie Basham has probably had the least amount of impact of any rookie second-round pick, short of
Kyle Trask. Yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable statement. No. And when you package it with the fact that you really thought AJ Epinesa had a chance to be his second year, I mean, obviously we have a tendency to kind of find reasons to excuse things. And last year there was a built-in excuse for AJ Epinesa, which was the body recomposition. There was a built-in excuse for him. This year, after the Miami game, we said, look, AJ Epinesa's coming on. And he's not. So let's go to the comment section. Thank you guys so much for taking the opportunity and dropping this in there. Number one, Autumn says, do you think it's lack of talent or a lack of development and coaching, specifically when it comes to the defensive line?
It's a good question.
I don't think it's ever going to be either. I think it's always going to be both. However,
I agree with that.
However, if you look at Carolina, a lot of the dominance that was associated with Carolina defensive line came from the middle. It came from K'Wan Short. And if Ed Oliver became a top 5 defensive tackle in the league, then I think you'd be looking at this a little different. So for me, part of this, I think, is stylistic and what they want from their defensive line. And then part of it is the things that they thought they were going to get out of AJ Epinesa didn't happen. I think another part of this is they overstated what they have this year. And so they were allowed to take Boogie Basham, because we mentioned that after Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison are at the end of this year, there's a lot of snaps up for grabs.
But so, Bruce, wouldn't you say the most disappointing part about the struggles on the defensive line, or maybe lack of success, is how much it yearns for something, for someone, and the fact that it's sort of sitting there begging, saying like, we just need some competence. We need some burst. We need a little bit of bend. We need some athleticism. You can't find, like, Boogie's not showing enough in practice to get any of those, to get an opportunity.
I think when one of the things I was questioning with the Boogie Basham pick is what do they want him to be, and are we going to see another body recomp with Boogie Basham? Because he was also that can he reduce down inside and play 3-tech kind of player, just like AJ Epinesa was. He hasn't. And you wonder, are we going through another body recomp thing with Boogie Basham? Are they going to ask him to play at 250? Because Boogie Basham is a pretty good athlete. I mean, 9.38 RAS score. So athleticism, 40-yard dash and 4.62. His 10-yard split was 1.63. He's got athletic talent. So for me, I feel like they're almost putting a square peg in a round hole with some of these players.
And can I say this too about the defensive line? Bruce, is it feels like Brandon Beane is always trying to recreate someone in the light or the vein of someone else, right? You mentioned Kwan Short. Good. That's what you're looking for in Ed Oliver. Can I mention someone else that I think he was looking for Boogie Basham to be? Charles Johnson. I think he was looking, almost the exact same profile, same weight. I think, just about the same height. I think Johnson's 6'2", Boogie might be 6'3", borderline 6'4". Like those are very similar profiles, very similar players. And he just brought in Star. Like he didn't even try to find somebody that can play stars at all. He just brought in Star Latulippe. Same with Vernon Butler. Like he just tries to recreate the same things that he's had in the system that Sean McDermott thrived in, right? And we know that those sorts of players played well in McDermott's system in Carolina, but I think he needs to stop recreating what he had there and start realizing that the league has shifted in the types of talent that it needs on the outside. The Brian Burns, the bend, the speed, the hand fighting, those are the things right now that are winning in the NFL. And they don't have anybody, Bruce, with that bend, with the length combined with the speed. And I think that's why they're struggling the way that they are.
It's one of the reasons why when I was doing a mock draft for Brandon Beane this particular year, I drafted a player who had 0 sacks last year from Penn State, who's performing pretty well for the Baltimore Ravens. And I got a little bit of hate, but I thought that Brandon Beane was going to value freak athleticism in that spot. That's what I thought we were going to see. And it didn't end up working that way. And when Gregory Rousseau got picked, I did not receive a lot of love on Twitter because what I said was, I don't really love it. I didn't come out strongly negative against it, but I was like, I don't really love it at that point. So that's my take on the defensive line. Let's go to Richard Rush. Richard Rush says, what soup do you like that you don't have often? Mine is French onion soup.
That is what I don't have often. I would say that fits the mold of not having often. Here's another one to throw in for ones that I enjoy but don't have often. Italian wedding.
You know what? I was going to say Italian wedding soup and you just stole it from me. So you know what? I'm going to have to go something else. All right, here we go. I don't have potato soup that often. No, I don't have a ton, but my wife makes it occasionally. And the secret, I think, is using shredded potatoes instead of cubed. I think that's a huge part of making potato soup excellent.
And potato soup is more biscuity, correct? Like it's more
Absolutely.
of a okay.
Now, I don't have lobster bisque a lot. I like that too, but it's so rich.
Yeah,
by the time I'm done with it, I'm like, I don't need to have that again for another year.
Yeah. And
I'm
the
good.
Other one. So I could tell you that almost every time I've ever been to Texas de Brazil, that's usually where I get like lobster bisque because I'm there. I've spent $60 on my meal. So on top of strictly eating beef, don't even get that chicken, get those sausages the hell away from me. No offense to the garlic parm chicken, which I like a lot. But when I spend $60, I am only eating filet and shank and, you name it, but like strip steak and they got, I try to go with and I stay away from the salad bar entirely, by the way. So bisque and beef when I go and spend $60 at Texas de Brazil, because I'd like to, get my money's worth.
Absolutely. 100%.
Ooh, corn chowder.
Zach says, do you feel Beane should attempt to make a significant trade to address the D-line?
Yes.
He appears to not be having measurable success in drafting game changers on the defensive line. This is really important. Who is available? That is
Chandler Jones is available in free agency.
Yes, he is.
And he's
also-
old, so
he's
he's not
also
going to get
old.
some long-term deal.
No. Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with dropping
Yes.
$20 million a year for 2 years on Chandler
Yeah.
Jones? Because you're going to have to give him 2 years, $45 million probably.
Yes.
You're cool with it after everything else that the Bills have invested in that spot.
I mean, you're going to have to walk away from. You're going to have to try to find a way to part with a star, which you can do in a post-June 1st, make it palatable. You're moving on from Addison and Hughes. You're moving on from Vernon Butler. You're probably not re-signing Harrison Phillips. So therefore, you have a ton of holes. You've got Epinesa, you've got Russo, and what better player in the NFL right now would you rather have take Gregory Russo under his wing than Chandler Jones?
I don't know if they're similar players from a stylistic standpoint.
Not a stylistic standpoint, but
I always thought that Eric
how to
Armstead
use
was
the
like
size.
I always thought Eric Armstead was the player, which is why I thought it was so weird that they were like, yeah, we like him a little thinner. I was like,
You
wow.
think he's a 3-4 defensive end is what you're saying.
I think that if you're going to use the length, I'd rather have him use it from 5 tech than from 7 and 9.
Okay.
I
don't disagree.
That was why I always thought it was weird. I always thought it was so weird that the Bills drafted Rousseau and they were like, yeah, he's a 4-3 defensive end. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I'm cool with it. I can see that scenario. But if he's a 4-3 defensive end, then he's Flowers. That's what he is a 4-3 defensive end.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the ceiling. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about that ceiling of Flowers, Eric Flowers level of ceiling when it comes to that. But I always thought he was Eric Armstead. That's what I thought he was. And that's a similar style player who has really succeeded in that role. And I was like, it seemed like a weird fit. Like I was so sure of that comp from this is stylistically what this player I think is going to be good at, that I was almost a little shocked when Marcel Louis-Jacques took Gregory Rousseau in the ESPN mock draft. And then sure enough, dude absolutely nailed it.
Yep.
Absolutely nailed it. And it ended up being a pick. And I was like, okay, I get it. I don't hate Gregory Rousseau. It doesn't. I'm like, all right, cool. I get it. But it's going to be interesting to see. So we got some chime ins here on the soup. Diggs says split pea soup, ham bone soup. Lone Wolf says corn chowder.
Not a split pea guy myself. I'm not a split pea guy.
I'll level with you. I don't think I've had split pea in a long time. What about wonton soup? Haven't had wonton in a little bit.
Wonton, yeah.
Calvin Butcher says lobster bisque. Absolutely. Okay, so moving along.
You know what time it is.
It's time. Winners and losers, ladies and gentlemen. The final thing of the evening. Go ahead and chime in the comments for your winners and losers of the week.
Winners
and losers from this week in the NFL. Let's start with winners. Let's do it. You want to go first? Yeah. Let's do winners.
Yeah, sure. I want to make Brandon Staley my winner because everyone's calling him a loser. And I am so glad I heard his interview this afternoon talking about the decisions that he made on going for 4 fourth downs or all 4th and short. And it was not a failure of a decision. It was a failure of execution. And what I loved hearing from him is, those are plays in the course of a game that can win or lose you a football game. They happen to be on the wrong side of those plays, but that he's going to continue to coach with that same sort of style and same aggressiveness. And in those situations, he's not going to lose trust because his team did not execute in those moments. And I love that. I think he's probably, I think you can make a case that maybe he is sometimes over aggressive. But man, if you're going to die, if you're going to lose and you're going to fade away, trying to win instead of trying to stay in or play to not lose or play to win instead of playing not to lose. And I love that style. And I know not everyone agrees with, when and how and the timing of those calls and when to go for it. And hey, if he would have kicked one of those field goals, maybe they win that game and maybe that's right. But against the Chiefs, field goals, there are teams in this league and offenses in this league that field goals will not win you football games. So I appreciate the mindset. I appreciate that was a very, very entertaining football game on Thursday night. So my biggest winner is Brandon Staley.
My biggest winner of the week is something that happened last night, and it directly impacted my ability to potentially win a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship this year. My biggest winner of the week is Travis Kelce.
Is you?
Yeah, it's me. It's me for having Travis Kelce. No, it's Travis Kelce. And I think that over the last couple of weeks, Travis Kelce has been fairly quiet. And there has been, whenever you have a player who is in his 30s, who gets fairly quiet, the rumors start to kind of spin. And when you have players who are young and dynamic, like Mark Andrews and Darren Waller, and you have George Kittle starting to come on and has a dynamic. George Kittle has been absolutely out of his mind the last couple of weeks. And because George Kittle's dominance has coincided with silence from Travis Kelce, there has been a lot of, well, he's the new best tight end in the NFL. George Kittle is the guy. He is the best tight end in the NFL. Well, Travis Kelce had something to say about that this week. And given how well the tight end position has historically aged for people, I think that Travis Kelce can continue to be a good tight end, even if he's not necessarily the best of the best, because he's been the best of the best for 6 years. So he can continue to be a really good tight end for a really long time. He's my biggest winner in the NFL this week because I think he quieted a lot of the conversation that was starting to creep up as to whether or not this ended up being a season that was a passing of the torch season.
Yeah,
so,
fair enough.
Biggest loser for the week. Nate, who you got?
Well, I think there's a lot of probably candidates for this, but my biggest loser of the week is all of us, because we had to watch Tom Brady get paraded around like some kind of, hero. And listen, Tom Brady made some remarkable, that throw on the sidelines in the red zone. It ended up being in the red zone down at the 3-yard line to Mike Evans, where he's throwing the ball off his back foot, throws it up in the air a mile, and it just falls down right in stride at the sidelines. And Mike Evans was one of the most impressive throws that I've seen in a very long time. We are all losers for watching that game play out the way that it did.
Wow.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
I'm
included in there. I'm a loser in that.
I mean, would it really be so blasé if I said Urban Meyer was the biggest loser of the week? But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway.
He's the biggest loser of the century, buddy.
So for me, the Urban Meyer discussion is this. People who follow college football religiously, who are really in depth, they already knew that Urban Meyer was a tainted legacy. Nobody who follows the college football landscape in depth had a positive opinion of Urban Meyer.
No.
Because of what happened with the Jaguars, now everybody has a negative opinion of Urban Meyer. So the fact that Urban Meyer was able to get a Fox Sports analysis job proves that not enough people after his tenure at Ohio State,
he's done now though,
and Utah and Bowling Green, not enough people thought negatively of him. Now, enough people all across every walk of life in the United States and beyond think negatively enough of him that he has essentially tanked any opportunity for him to be involved in the game that he loves moving forward. And I understand that he can laugh his way all the way to the bank, and he's made a ton of money and he doesn't need it. But Urban Meyer is a competitor. He loves to win, and he will never, ever get to do it the way he wants to do it ever again.
There won't be a college program. I can't imagine a college program would ever let him go into a recruiting home ever again. It was, and the problem was it was an embarrassment, but it was always sort of set up to fail because, oh gosh, why can't I remember? Why isn't his name popping up? He's one of my favorite analysts, Monday Night Football.
Louis Riddick.
Louis Riddick. God bless it.
Dude, I got you, dude.
Thank you. Louis Riddick said it perfectly. It's the difference between, and so did Pat McAfee, by the way. Pat McAfee called it in 2020 or whenever this decision was made at the beginning of this year, before he transitioned to the Pat McAfee show and it was on ESPN. He called this, man. I mean, he called it like he read it and he saw it. And he went from being a part of the player's everyday life and being in control and telling him what to do, what to eat, how to sleep, to working with men that he has to work with. And that's a big difference. And he just, it never worked. And listen, that the very first decision that he made, hiring I don't, his name doesn't belong in my head because it's, you know, I don't care to remember his name, but the Iowa, you know, weightlifting coach that, you know, did not deserve a job anywhere. That was the biggest red flag. That should have been the first thing that Shad Khan said. Yeah, this was a mistake. But like, listen, man, I mean, he's going to end up with the third or fourth shortest tenure of any head coach in NFL history, just short of Bill Belichick's one day with the New York Jets.
I know that it was expected for me to take Urban Meyer, but I mean, sometimes obvious things are obvious for a reason. So
yeah,
that is what it is.
And by the way, Kelvin, yes, I did throw a gang sign at my cat. He gets it.
Yeah, he's a cool cat. He knows what's up. I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but the slang term for calling somebody your cat, what's up, cat, you know, actually came from Nate's cat. I don't know if you guys know this or not. Just, I mean, huge astronomical news dropping on Food for Thought.
He had a late dinner tonight because I went to the driving range earlier. He normally eats around 5 o'clock. He didn't eat till 7. So this is his post dinner slumber. My other cat is doing the same, but she's on the other side of the home. But like cats, Bruce, I also require at least a 20-minute cat nap after my meal, because if you do it right, you should be very tired after eating.
Wow. See, now we're going to have to talk about that later, the whole tired after eating thing. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We went a little bit over again, but you know what? Well, time flies when you're having fun.
That's right.
So thank you for stopping by Food for Thought this evening. We hope you enjoyed yourself. We hope you're full, and we hope you didn't leave hungry.